I was born into a story without my knowing, really. My parents, Alex and Jennifer Lowe, spent their young lives chasing experiences across the globe, climbing together, traveling, and investing in experiencing new things instead of a rested life. So when I came around in 1988, my father, Alex Lowe, who some of you may have heard of, was well on his way to becoming one of the world's most renowned climbers, which he would later become. And without a question of the matter, really, I began my lifelong pastime of travel, tagging along on these far-flung adventures long before I could appreciate this gift of a restless life. In fall of 1999, my father, Alex, pictured here, while attempting to climb a peak in the Tibetan Himalaya alongside his best friend and climbing partner, Conrad Anker, perished in an avalanche. And this happenstance tied my life to the region, this faraway place that I had never really heard of beyond the writing and postcards that I'd received from Alex on his travels. In 2003, bonded by shared loss, Conrad joined our family and became my adoptive father. And through a very similar role in the outdoor industry that Alex had held, he continued pushing me towards this world of adventure and exploration and helped foster my passion for chasing these far-flung adventures. I have to accredit my family, Alex, my mother Jennifer, pictured here on the left with me on a boat in Thailand when I was a tyke, and Conrad pictured here with me sometime later, a little bit taller in that image, on Denali several years ago when we went and climbed together there. They've definitely helped me realize and build my life and my career doing something that I love and that I'm truly passionate about. In college, I started bringing a camera with me on my own adventures, and I settled in Salt Lake City for pretty much the sole purpose of chasing powder. And I'm sure some of you in the audience know that hunger. So I was there for 4-ish years, up until I managed to graduate somehow in 2011. I love skiing as much as the next person that I went to school with in Salt Lake, and definitely indulged in my fair share of sick days, skipping class when the snow was flying, but there was something really special to me about going into these experiences with a camera in hand and returning with a piece of that memory and a piece of that experience that I could then share with people who were willing to watch and put them in those magical moments that I cherished so much. This and it just gave me a slightly legitimate excuse to go play in the mountains with my friends. Throughout college, I also shot a lot of music whenever I could ski my way into it. Mostly for the sole fact that I love the experience of going to these live shows. Everyone, an amazing and new sensation. I'm sure many of you know that energy that comes from going and seeing musicians perform live. And a small publication I worked for would get me onto the list. So I would get into these shows for free, and I'd be able to go up and be in the front row and have this special interaction with these live performers that you wouldn't be able to otherwise as a photographer. And photography, this is really the first time that I experienced photography as a tool to take me to these places that I wouldn't have been able to access otherwise. And that was really, really an addicting thing. It was also through this, my first actual job as a photographer, that I received my first paycheck as a freelancer in the form of coupons to a local pizza joint. The pizza was great, as pizza always is. But the spark of an idea within this experience that I might be able to take photography and make it more than just a hobby was, it was a really exciting idea, and it started a fire in me. When I graduated from university and returned to Montana for the summer, my parents urged me to consider a real job, as dutiful parents do. now out from under the blanket of a pre-planned life that college had afforded me, I was scared. Facing the world ahead of you after college is definitely one of those cliffs that you walk up to with a little bit of, uh, you know, fear and uncertainty and distaste for, making any major decisions that Lord knows might affect your future. The joy of travel I had found, or the joy of traveling and adventure and going to these new places and experiencing these new and amazing things kind of drew me into trying to avoid office chair as long as I could. I did apply for a few different positions that summer and even got a job offer from the then newly minted company GoPro. But contemplating a 9-to-5 existence, even at such an amazing media-based company, scared me. So I turned it down. But instead, I bought a ticket to Rio de Janeiro, where my cousin was living at the time, working for the Navy, and he offered me a free place to stay and a network of friends that I could explore this amazing new place that I'd never been before and enjoy some amazing romantic travel experiences that I'll never forget. And my camera was with me the whole time and definitely led me to places that I wouldn't have experienced there otherwise. Traveling more than anything has inspired me, to be certain. From the hidden corners of my home state of Montana to mysterious and distant places across the globe that I never imagined, experiencing things that edge upon your understanding of the world around you builds curiosity and makes the existence that you live an infinitely more magical and inspiring one. After a winter back in Montana, working as a waiter at night and skiing every day, I planned my next move. This time to travel through India with a group of my friends from high school, exploring another foreign land that captured my imagination and craving for romantic travel. Traversing this distant land more than any other, I felt often extremely foreign as a very white 6'4" guy. You stick out a little bit in India. And I was overwhelmed and scared in many situations, but I felt like through that chaos and through those trials and tribulations that I encountered while traveling there, I really learned how to pick the quiet moments out of the chaos. While I was in the city of Agra, I received an email from an internet cafe, because we didn't have iPhones with us back then, across the street from the Taj Mahal. I read an email that I had received a grant from National Geographic, the Young Explorers Grant. It's offered to anyone under the age of 26 who cares to apply from anywhere across the globe. And I had submitted an application earlier that spring without really much thought that it would turn into anything. And here I was in this remote foreign place, reading that I was about to embark on this expedition and adventure that I really had no idea that I would be doing when I left. So I was to head to Nepal within the next several weeks, and so I booked a flight to New Delhi, and I was on my way. I would go on to spend almost 2 months living in the Khumbu region of Nepal, working on a project to detail changes in the social and cultural geography of the region and the Sherpa people that live there, looking at how the influence of Western incursion into the region with the influx of adventure tourism due to the draw of Everest, and seeing how that had changed things for the Sherpa people. To say I was completely overwhelmed would be an understatement. The magnitude of this task, working for National Geographic, of all publications, I felt as if I had been plucked and placed in this dream state in which I could only really take one step after the next. But through my inevitable self-doubt, I felt like my photography really carried me through that experience and through those fears of failure, because it's something that I love to do. It's something that I knew, and uh, it's something that really gave me self-confidence in those experiences that I knew that I wanted to experience. And this story, in particular, was really important to me because my family had been coming here. My dad had been sending me postcards from Kathmandu since I was a little tyke. When I felt my grant work was complete, and the monsoon season was coming on, the rains were coming, and I was headed home. I was tired and excited to get back and see what the next step in my grant would afford me. And I reached the streets of Kathmandu, and I was about to fly home. I was a day out from flying back and actually going to Sasquatch with some friends here in the state of Washington, and I got a phone call. My close friend and fellow photographer, Corey Richards, who had been the lead photographer on the 2012 Everest expedition for National Geographic, had become ill while at altitude and had to be flown out and leave the expedition. His assistant, Andy Barden, would take the lead on the project, and he was the one who called me and asked if I would be willing to come back up to base camp and assist him as they pushed for the summit and to finish the story on Everest, working for National Geographic magazine, which was beyond what I thought was about to happen. In the spring, I'd gone from being a small-time scrapping photojournalist, picking up a few stories in local magazines and shooting mostly just because I like to shoot, to being employed by the publication that every photographer dreams of working for. Shooting photos towards a story told in one of the most extreme environments in the world. It was beyond hard to wrap my head around this at the time. Time and my progression along the path of making my photography my career seems to have all faded into a blur in recent years. And the amazing places and people I'm lucky enough to have experienced along the way have all kind of become innumerable. My drive to tell these stories, though, has remained much the same, building images and work through experiences that I would have reached for regardless if I had a camera or not. But like I experienced in college with that music, a camera has over and over again also been a vehicle taking me to places and showing me things that I never would have experienced otherwise. I've seen and shot things that I never would have believed in if I hadn't seen them firsthand. Been able to interact with some of the most rare creatures on the planet and the environments that they exist within. But most valuable to me, I've been able to connect with and build relationships with people from across the world where no preconceived tie between us existed, and then to bridge the gap between us with my camera as the vehicle. Regardless of what you do, if you hope to love your work and the life you take from it, I think you really have to believe in that which you chase. For me, I found stories living in the experiences I already craved, and an impetus in photography became my tool to translate that into a life that I wanted to live. So my advice to anyone who wants to make photography more a part of their life, find your story. Find something that you're truly hungry for, something you want to learn about, or something that you know already and you just want to delve into, and the rest will follow suit. Thanks.